Hi there.
Hey there.
We're Sean and Allison from Spoken Garden, and we're partnering with Eden Brothers to help you in your garden.
Yeah, we're going to show you how to sow your broccoli seeds indoors and outdoors step by step today.
Yeah, but before we get to that, it's helpful to know that broccoli is considered a cool season vegetable. It can tolerate temperatures down to 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
And whether you're sowing your seeds indoors or outdoors, you're going to need to make sure that you site the proper location where you're going to be growing them later. Broccoli need to grow in full sun, but will tolerate partial shade, and they also like well-draining fertile soil that's slightly acidic. Also, you don't want to plant your broccoli anywhere you've already grown this year, mustard seeds, cabbage, kale, or any other brassica type of crop. So before we show you how to sow your broccoli seeds, we want to let you know a little bit more about broccoli. Broccoli is mainly grown as an annual vegetable crop for its unopened central flowers, also known as florets. Now, broccoli are hardy in zones 3 through 10 and have a mainly upright growth habit. Now, broccoli will usually mature in 50 to 70 days after germination, and they're really easy to grow and they're super low maintenance. The seeds we're going to show you how to sow today are called calabrese or calabrese. They're an heirloom variety and they get 24 to 36 inches tall, and their florets, or the unopened flower, gets up to about 8 inches in diameter. Now, this variety has a mild, sweet, earthy flavor and has a really great texture to it. It's also open pollinated, and it can go in a lot of different dishes, including cold and hot dishes.
Before you sow your broccoli seeds, let's talk about when to plant them so you can plan ahead and prepare. So first option, you can direct sow your broccoli in the spring season as early as 2 to 3 weeks before your last frost date. For a fall harvest of broccoli, plant your seeds in early to late July anytime, especially if you're in a colder climate. But if you're in a warmer climate, you can plant your broccoli even later into the year. So on the other hand, if you want to sow your broccoli seeds indoors and get an earlier jump on them, here's what you need to do. For spring sowing, you're going to want to plant them in seed cell trays or whatever you use 4 to 6 weeks before your last spring frost date. For a fall harvest, count back about 12 or more weeks before your first fall frost. All right, let's get these broccoli seeds sown indoors. The first step is to get your soil ready for planting. We're using seed starting soil in these seed trays, and the soil has been pre-moistened. The next step is to get ready for sowing. And it's helpful to have a tool like a seed dibber or some kind of, maybe a chopstick or a knife, something to make planting holes with. Right now, we're using our Diby XL seed dibber tool to make small indentations in each cell that are about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch deep. Next, carefully remove your seeds from the seed packet and drop 2 to 3 seeds into each planting hole. Carefully cover each hole with a little bit of soil. Finally, gently moisten the top of the soil to start the germination process. And that's how you sow your broccoli seeds indoors.
After you've sown your broccoli seeds, you can expect them to germinate anywhere from 4 to 7 days. Now, you'll just need to make sure that they are kept watered on a consistent basis so you can track their growth, and you'll want to wait until about their second true pair of leaves have developed and they've gotten about maybe 2 to 3 inches tall before you start thinking about transplanting them out into your garden. But before you transplant them out in your garden, you're going to need to harden them off so they get acclimatized to your local garden area. Now, to harden your seedlings off, you'll need to gradually bring them outside for longer and longer periods of time over a 2-week period. And this process will help them get acclimatized to your garden. And so on the last couple of days, you can leave them outside overnight so then they really get used to your garden area. Then, once you've gone through that process with them, you can transplant them directly into your garden. One more requirement before you transplant your seedlings out into your garden is to make sure your soil is workable and the ground isn't frozen.
All right, let's get your broccoli seeds sown outdoors now. The first step is to get your soil ready for planting. You want to make sure that your soil is pre-moistened and full of plenty of well-draining fertile soil. Next step is to get ready for sowing, which includes depth and spacing for your seeds. Now, broccoli seeds need to be planted at a depth of 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep, and they need to be spaced at least 12 to 18 inches apart. You may need to thin your seedlings later so they are more evenly distributed and they don't crowd each other for water, nutrients, or sunlight. If you're planning on adding rows of broccoli, they need to be spaced 36 inches apart. Next, carefully remove your seeds from the packet and drop at least 2 to 3 seeds per planting hole. Next, carefully cover each planting hole with a little bit of soil. Finally, gently moisten the top of the soil to start the germination process. And that's how you sow your broccoli seeds outdoors.
To transplant your seedlings from indoors to outdoors, you're going to need to nicely take them out of their pony packs or how you're growing them from indoors and start to separate them, especially if you've grown them this close together. So just nicely take them out, set them down, start spacing them out roughly, and then we'll measure them here. They're going to need to be 12 to 18 inches apart. So to get that 12 to 18 inches, we'll need to space these out a lot better than I already did. You can just use your finger or something like a widger like what we have here, the Divi XL, and start planting and placing your seedlings in the ground. Make sure to match the depth they were planted at in the cell tray to the depth out here in your garden, and then that way they'll have an easier time of growing and you won't have any other problems as they grow in your garden. Just nicely place them in the hole and tamp down all the soil around there, all around those roots. The last step is to water in your seedlings and make sure you really soak the soil so there's lots of water available for those new seedlings. Now in the weeks and months ahead, you're going to need to make sure that you consistently water your broccoli and keep that soil nice and moist so that water is always available for it to continually grow and grow those large florets for you to harvest later on. So it's also a great idea to keep your eyes out for any diseases or insects that will come in and try and use your broccoli as food or a shelter. So keep your eyes out for that. And mulching around your broccoli as soon as they get a little bit bigger will definitely help to keep the soil moist and also cut down on weeds, because you're going to need to keep the weeding up around your plants. In 50 to 70 days, you can expect to harvest your broccoli heads. Harvest when the head buds are firm and before the flower buds open. Whether in spring or in fall, you need to cut the stalk of the main head at a slant or an angle. Leave the smaller side stems of each broccoli plant to grow and harvest later. Harvest in the early morning after watering when the plants are least stressed and the stems are strong. Now, if you need more vegetable planting, growing, or harvesting tips, you can always go to EdenBrothers.com and check out their planting guides.
And we hope this video was really helpful for you in planting your own broccoli seeds. And from us at Spoken Garden and Eden Brothers, thank you for watching.